There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHDJ Podcast. I'm Joe Bunn. I'm with my man, as always, Mike Walter. What's up, Mike?
I'm Joe. I've got my Taylor Swift sweat. I got my Swift.
Wow, he really does. He's an official Swiftie. He's got a Swiftie hoodie on. And we have another gentleman with us today, my friend, all the way, and Mike's friend, all the way from Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Jim Collins. What's up?
Welcome, Jim. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been so long since I've seen either of you, so I know things in the last couple of years have been crazy for everybody, but it's so nice to see you both.
You know, I make this point all the time. It is one of the strange things about social media. You see people, and I'm putting air quotes around "see" for those of you listening. Yeah. You see people on social, so you feel like you see them. But yeah, I mean, you and I, Jim, had lunch. What is that? 3 years ago that you came down to my office and had lunch?
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like it was maybe a year ago, and I think a lot of that has to do with the pandemic. Has kind of crunched time down a little bit, but yeah, it has been a while.
Man,
yeah, that's the first time. So I know we had spoken and done plenty of videos and things like that long before that. But that was the first actual time that I met you in person, and we sat down and were able to talk. So that was awesome.
Yeah. Jim, have you've been on the podcast once before? Is that correct?
No, it's the first time.
First time. Okay, Mike and I were talking about it.
I think we have used your suggestions in the past, not as much as Richie Stegman, but every once in a while we'll say, hey, here's a topic from Jim Collins. So I feel like you've been on the show.
That's true.
But yeah, I guess
you can be you're the co-associate secondary producer. Assistant.
Nice.
Yeah. We should mention also that we are pre-recording this show.
Correct.
We're recording it on February 2nd. It should drop February 17th, which is the day Kelly and I are actually traveling home from Jamaica. So our 10 days in Jamaica is wrapping up. So I'll be a lot more tan than I am currently right now if you're looking at this video.
And I'll probably be nursing a hangover from the Vault 3-year anniversary party that we're having.
Wow, so is that February 16th?
Nice.
February 16th. We're having a live stream from the office. We're doing a webinar. It's going to be, I'm giving away 3 controllers. It's going to be epic.
I may just tune into that down in Jamaica.
Yeah, dude. We're going to have a party.
We're going to have Wi-Fi down there.
Please do.
One of the things I'm super looking forward to is I'm going to be away for the Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to kind of watching it. I'm assuming all the beachside bars are going to have
They will. Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking forward to watching a Super Bowl on a beach and having a margarita and
I believe I did that one time. I was in Mexico and I watched it in Mexico, which was just a totally different experience.
Do any of the two of you care about it? Do you
for some reason I've fallen in love with this Joe Burrow kid. I don't know why, man, but he's giving me that Joe Namath kind of swag vibe.
He's in love with. He's got some swag. I think he straddles the line of cocky and confident.
Yes, dude, I love this kid, man.
What did you think of somebody asked him the other day, he had a big
chain. Yeah.
And one of the reporters said, is that real? Which is such a dumb question anyway. And I think the direct quote was, I make too much money to wear fake diamonds. And some people were like offended by that. I'm like, to me, that's the most brilliant answer you can have, and it's no shock. Athletes make a ton of money. It's not like he's not rubbing it in anyone's face, but it's to me that just shows that you can't.
I loved him for it. You can't, man. I loved him for that. I love the answer. I love the fact he bought his entire offensive line these iced out watches. For some reason, I love this guy. I don't know why. I want to switch teams so bad. The Panthers are so bad. Davis, my youngest, thinks that's so wrong. He's like, you can't do that, and I'm like,
no, I agree with Davis. You can't switch allegiances, but when your team is out of it, there's nothing wrong with rooting for somebody.
Okay, thank you.
Listen, don't go crazy. Don't go buying a bunch of Bengal swag.
I did buy
But yeah, see, that's bullshit, Joe. I think that's. I would agree. How old is Davis?
He's 13.
I agree with your 13-year-old. You don't go out and buy the swag. There's nothing listen, I'm rooting for the Bengals. I hope they win this game, mainly because my very good friend Jeremy Jones is a huge Bengals fan, and I would love to see him be happy. But
man,
we're totally crying. Our guest here. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, Jim.
We're on a tangent here. Jim's like, I don't care about football, so I got nothing to.
All right, let me parlay it into the subject because. All right, here's the subject. And I can speak on this from experience. So Jim Collins, it is Collins Entertainment. It's your name, right? Your company name? Right. Is in Connecticut, has a multi-op DJ company, is growing, and in his area, he is pulling talent from, let's just say, not his immediate town, right? He's using guys from the areas surrounding Connecticut. So it is hard to pull all these people together to do trainings. And so Jim and I talked about this, this probably been, again, 2-3 years ago. 2019, to the point where he was getting ready to train a new crop of DJs. What was it, three guys, something like that, Jim?
There were two from my team. Yep.
And then somehow we started talking, and I was like, well, you know what, man? You're so good. And because Jim and I have taught, we've been friends for a while, and I can just tell the way he runs his business is very on par with how I'd want business done, the way he MCs, the way he conducts himself. And I said, what if we parlayed my sister's new DJs in Montana office, which was opening around that time, into this virtual training, and I'll hop on as much as I can. And then, we kind of just...
I think I was aware of this.
Yeah. Cool. It was really cool. And then, so I kind of want to turn it over to you, Jim, in terms of, why you did it. And I kind of just spoiled that a little bit, but also how you feel like it went. And then even since then, how it's gone in terms of training even newer people that I don't know about. So kind of just take it away, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So 2019, as Joe mentioned, that was our first discussion just about combining teams just to do some trainings and talk a little bit about that. So it was a 6-week virtual training that we did. And, I got the opportunity to meet AD and she was onboarding her team of DJs in Montana. And I think there were a few of your guys from Raleigh, too.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We were part of it also that sat in. And basically, I had 2 new DJs, basically, that I was onboarding.
So what was it like? You, AD, I was on and off, and then what, 8 people? 8 DJs?
Yeah, I think there was about 8 people.
Okay.
8 DJs, right? And it was great, too, because it was the first virtual experience that I put together for training and putting, developing a curriculum. It was for 6 weeks. It was an hour and a half.
Let me interrupt for a second. Yeah. What platform are you using? Are you using Zoom?
Zoom, yeah.
Great.
Yep. And I'll talk definitely about that, too, some of the pros and cons about doing that and how it worked out. But it was, I got a lot out of it because it was the first time that I was basically guiding the team through and covering different topics and aspects of training. So that was awesome. And then just being able to, it was obviously an honor to be able to work with Joe and his sister and have them have the faith instilled that, I'd be able to help them out and show them some of the things that I've learned along the way. So that was the start of it, really. And from there, that 6-week training went well. I think a lot of it that made it fun was the interaction that we did, right? Because I could certainly talk about different aspects of weddings, format, planning, mixing music, but it really doesn't have an impact, I don't think, unless you have the interaction. So I think the way that we made it fun was to, have mock introductions, do that virtually, run through, do sets of 3 mixes here and there. So those were all pieces that worked well. So I used a lot of, what I did for that 6 weeks for a couple other guys through the pandemic. And it was a little bit more intimate. So it wasn't 8 DJs, but it was 2 guys that I was interested in seeing how they would do. Changed things, tweaked the curriculum a little bit, right? And took the experience that I learned from the first one and just changed some of the topics and things that we would cover, the length of what we would cover, so on and so forth. But it was successful. I'm so proud of the first round that we did. 2 of my guys, I had Maurice, who's in New York. So he hails from Bronx, actually. And then I also had our other DJ who was new to the team, and he's local. But I just was able to witness from that training, right? Basically just how far they had come. So just very positive.
Do you ever record the sessions on Zoom?
Yeah, that was one of the big things that I wanted to make sure of. So initially from the first trainings that we did, basically we record, and so I could kind of go back. And then especially if there was interactions that were doing sets of music that were, listening to, hearing the DJs, hearing how they sound if they're doing mock introductions, could go back and take some notes afterwards, critique, and give them some helpful information.
Yeah, I felt like the main thing that was important on the sessions that I was a part of was that, Mike, everybody had their rig set up right there. You know what I mean? And we weren't really checking audio quality and stuff because that didn't matter as long as we could hear what they were doing. But for them to have their system set up, their controller, at least a monitor so we could hear something, their mic, set up, queued up, ready to go, and to either physically play some songs or to actually MC a part, I thought that was so critical. Yeah. And when guys didn't prepare that part, it was almost like they shouldn't have been there. I'm sure you were going to touch on that a little bit, Jim, like in terms of the pros and cons. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to weed out potential DJs that aren't going to really put their heart into it, right? You find that out from an early stage of the training of who's really in it and who's not so dedicated in their preparation. You give them ideas of what to focus on and what we'll be talking about the next training, and you see if they do their homework and they come prepared, so on and so forth. So I think a lot of it is that piece, right? And just trying to find it out. It's like if you have the interview intake sheet when you first talk to them for that 10-15 minutes before you even do a training, you could weed out a lot of candidates, right? And say, okay, well, can they fill this form out correctly, so on and so forth. But I like it because I think it's easier to get DJs to commit, basically, finding a time that typically works well for everybody. So it's flexible. Obviously, you have the benefits of that for virtual training. Secondly, it definitely helps identify the talent, right? Because, as a musician and just onboarding musicians and bands, I've had that experience of saying, all right, tell me about yourself, and you have an interview with them, and basically they're going on and on how they could play on guitar and their favorite artists, and they sound amazing. You have this hour-and-a-half conversation with them. They show up for the gig, right, for the audition, and they suck. They no talent whatsoever. And if you just had a video of them beforehand and say, show me you got some audio, you have some video, you could have basically established and probably ended that conversation in 5 minutes.
Saved yourself a bunch of time. Right? So I think it's good because it helps identify the talent.
We had a similar experience a number of years ago. We were trying to find another wedding photographer for our studio, and we interviewed a few photographers, and they all come in obviously with a portfolio with some of their greatest work, and and then we would stick them on a job as the second shooter, not even guaranteed to the client, just an extra person, and then we would look at their work, and sometimes their work sucked, and what we realized was, any photographer can, over the course of however many years, get 12 good shots and show that as their work. But when they're handed a camera at an actual wedding and told to take some pictures and this, do they get anything worthwhile? So I'm sure it's the same thing with DJs, the same thing with musicians. You can tell me how great you are, but let me stick a microphone in your hand or get you behind a controller and listen to you mix, and that's when I'll really know.
Perfect.
Yes. No doubt about it. But there's other ways too. You could get a lot accomplished with the virtual trainings because you could add in topics and trainings that, topics that you might not have had time for, or let's say you do in one session. And, if you have a whole day designated for a training, I think, because you are kind of breaking it up a little bit too. So let's say you do an hour and a half one week, an hour and a half the next, the attention span is better. You're more, I think, on tune with what's going on. You're not, after that 45 minutes, don't need a break or whatever. And so I think everyone's pretty engaged, and it's interactive, of course, right? You can cover on a shared screen how you go over online forums, basically. So when you're meeting with couples, you understand basically all the things that they're going to want to know and have answers to, and how you could guide them through that. So having that part as well is a way to, basically have them familiarize themselves with, here's a process of, before you meet with your couple that 4 months before, here's basically, the information you'll have to understand and know how to answer. So that's kind of one of those pieces too. And then of course the most fun, I think, in the interaction is mixing sets and hearing how you could put 3 songs together. So if I throw, like you did, Mike, you do the Jenga example.
The Jenga, yeah.
That always comes to mind, where you have DJs basically.
And when I do live training in person, a lot of times, whether I'm my own DJs, and I'm pointing to my basement here because I'm actually training later today, or if a company hires me to come in, one of the things I like to do is a kind of a roundtable mixing where I'll make the first mix, and then whatever song I left, somebody else come up and mix a song into that one, and then somebody else come up and mix a song into that one, and it not only you're demonstrating two things there: mixing skills, but also programming skills. Like, where are you going to go when, if I dropped I Want to Dance with Somebody, where are you going to go from there? And if the person goes into Fireball, then where's the next person going to go from there? So I love that type of thing. Now, I'm sure you can do that type of thing virtually as well. It sounds to me like you guys are making the same points about virtual training as I make about virtual sales appointments. There are pros and cons. I prefer face-to-face sales. I'd rather sit in a room. But I'll tell you, the efficiency, I just had this recently. I had a client coming in for an appointment into the office. They were 20 minutes late showing up to my office. That never happens with a Zoom meeting. If we have a 6:00 Zoom sales meeting, I usually hop on at 5:55. I text the client and I say, hey, I started our meeting a couple minutes early, and they usually pop on a few minutes early or at least 6:00. I've never had a Zoom meeting that started 2 minutes late. So it's the same type of thing. Efficiency, your guys don't have to drive, like you said, Jim, an hour sometimes they might be away. And then you've done cross country. I think it's brilliant.
And Jim, I mean, just going back to the beginning where I should have talked a little bit more about this, what was the original inception of this, or the idea behind this? Was it proximity of the DJs? Because
it's pre-COVID.
Yeah, but pre-COVID, for sure.
It was pre-COVID. It was
one of the space limitations, proximity. Like, was it? I don't know.
Most of
their schedules.
Yeah, most of the guys were local, but one of my DJs was in New York, so it'd be a travel for him, and it was easier, honestly, for me, right? And as a company owner, to be able to kind of mix that in where I'd have enough time to set aside for them during the week, and also have my sales meetings, right, with couples. My planning meetings with couples, it just made it equitable, I think, in the sense where I'm able to manage my personal home life with the family, and also put that dedicated time into basically learning from a new team and them learning from me.
I love it. Any other points you want to make about this, or advantages?
Yeah, I mean, as far as
you got a few notes there. I can see your eyes. If you're not watching, I can see he's reading something. So I know he's got some points.
He's a guest who comes prepared. In the Dave Lander school of actually being prepared when you're on the show.
I have to write things down. Yeah, absolutely. Cons for sure. So if you don't have a stable Wi-Fi, basically, obviously, you do these Zoom trainings and that could go wrong. I think one of the biggest parts about the training that I notice is the mixing sets, right? So especially when you're trying to listen to a DJ and see how they're mixing into songs, if you don't have that stable connection, if it freezes up, obviously you're like, wait a second, is that a bad mix into another song, or is it just you're slowing down or speeding up? So that was one of the pieces. Just like troubleshooting scenarios, you can't do those. So you can't unplug a cable if the DJ's there and try to have them go through and do a diagnostic of why they can't hear anything. So I know that's something that you do obviously a lot in person.
Mm-hmm.
Let me highlight one of the things that Jim said. If you're new to training, or if you think you want to improve your training, when Jim talked about he can tell from 1 week to the next if the person hasn't worked on the quote unquote assignment or whatever was given out the week before, that's crucial to any efficient training program, whether it's in person or virtual. When I am done with a training session, I give my trainees something to work on next week. Now, that means you have to be organized, because that means that just like the end of our podcast, Joe and I don't always tease the next show. And why don't we do that? Because we don't know what we're talking about next week. But when we're organized, we know, and so we tease it. And so it's the same type of thing. You have to run an efficient enough training program where okay, this is week 4, and here's the topic. Next week, week 5, this is going to be the topic. So then you can hand them information, and then you can monitor whether or not they're actually serious about this training by doing that stuff that you've asked them to do. So critical to running any kind of efficient training program, whether it's in person or virtual, is handing them an assignment from week to week.
Facts.
Yeah, right. I think it helps.
And again, it goes back to dedication. Are they dedicated? Are they going to practice? I've used the analogy a million times. You know, my son was younger. He wanted to play the guitar. I took him to lessons. He went every Thursday. I went with him, and then he would put it in the case, and he wouldn't get it out until the next Thursday. Why am I not getting better? It's called practice, buddy.
Yep.
John Mayer has a guitar in his hand every single time you see him, like still to this day, and he's fantastic. Right. So speaking of music, can we talk about the Jim Collins experience?
Yeah. So, man, the pandemic I mean, everyone dealt with it in their own way, and
sure.
For me, just mentally to really get through it, and music is the way I always get through everything. Is definitely a catharsis for me, and so music and songwriting and recording have always been there, but more so now because I had more of an opportunity and time to do it. So I spent a lot of time just, finding the professional software, the gear, to get back into it and really designate a lot of time into getting back my voice. It's just like an engine that, you start an engine up in the cold of winter, it doesn't turn right away. And I had to really, get my voice back in shape. So I did that through, of course, the pandemic and cancellations, postponements, and it really helped. So I thought of an idea, and I always like how during cocktail hours and dinner, you find some really cool, chill acoustic versions of songs to play. Different.
We were just talking about this on another episode.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just how there's so many awesome, amazing, talented artists that are out there that you never heard of on Spotify and you just check it out, oh God. And so I love that. I love being able to do that and hear different moods and takes on different talent and their approach to a song, and creating something different out of it, something familiar that we know, but making it their own. So long story short, I reached out to Jeff Tate. He's one of my favorite singers in the world. He's kind of like, he's the one that, when I was 15 years old,
this is Queensryche, right?
Queensryche, yes, the former singer of the band Queensryche, right? And I
used to love that album. Go ahead.
Operation Mindcrime. We were talking about that, right? And you knew every word of Operation Mindcrime.
I did.
But they really hit it, when they came out with Silent Lucidity, and then mainstream, boom, everybody knew who they were. So I reached out to him, and this is through social media, so of course you think, okay, they have admins running pages and things like that, but I got through to him, and I asked him because he did a project recently too, called Sweet Oblivion is the band, as musicians from Italy hired and so forth. So I asked him, hey, I'm really interested in the production. I was listening closely to it. So who are you working with? And he gave me the name of a guy from Italy who produced and he played guitar on his most recent album. His name, I'm going to butcher it. I think it's, and I've talked to this guy just through email. So we've never had a conversation on the phone or anything like that. It's all email exchange of music and so forth. His name is Aldo Lanabale. So amazing musician, right? And I said, hey, I've got an idea for a project I'd like you to see if you'd be interested in doing. So I crafted a bunch of song ideas, basically, and these were songs from The Weeknd, Ed Sheeran, Post Malone, Dan and Shay, and all relevant artists, and trying to make a mix of 8 songs to put together. Hired string players, basically. So, I went all out.
You went all out, yeah.
And put this together. So, yeah, I mean, we finally have something put together. It comes out, so it's available on any platform that's available for music, basically. And
so when this episode drops, we can get this record.
I'm looking at it at Spotify right now.
Stop.
Everlong, right? Is that you? Sunflower?
Yep, that's it.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it's under your name.
Yeah, so it's verified under Jim Collins, basically. And if you go to Spotify and pull up a verified artist, they're all singles right now, and they're going to merge into the album next week. So that way you could find all the tracks together. You don't have to search for them. But yeah, I'm really happy the way it came out, and just the experience of working with someone that was able.
Is it your vocals? Are you the one singing?
Yeah, so I sang all the vocals, all the backups. The string players that I hired were through Fiverr, actually. And you think, oh my God, musician through Fiverr, $5 or $10 or whatever.
Wow.
But no, it wasn't like that. It was. I basically auditioned and wanted to find the right players, hear the song samples of what they put out, and it took a lot of time to find people. But narrowing them down and working with people from Italy, from London, and putting something together was amazing.
Dude, so I'm so proud of you, man.
I talked about a few episodes ago. I like to play covers during dinner.
Yeah.
So I'm going to preview this stuff, obviously, but it sounds like some new material for me to drop in during dinner.
Me too.
That would be awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Dude, people come up as they often do and go, "Who is this?" I'm going to go, "It's my buddy Jim Collins."
That's my friend Jim Collins. One state away.
That's very cool, Jim.
Thank you.
Super proud of you, man. I know, we all struggled and we all kind of got through it in different ways. And man, I can't think of a better way to kind of channel your energy instead of being negative, which I started to turn towards as we enter year 3. Instead, I maybe should go make a record. However, I can't sing.
Melody. I'm really looking forward to hearing this.
It's awesome,
Very cool. Very cool.
So, man, Jim, it's always a pleasure, number one, to see you in sort of real life. He came on, I was like, dude, I got to see you in real life at some point. But, and dude, we're super excited for you, super proud of you. Thank you for talking about this virtual training. It just kind of gives people an insight into the fact that it is possible. I was part of it. My sister was part of it. She is certainly grateful to getting those first few people off the ground, getting her career off the ground. And so, I don't know, just an all-around thank you, I guess.
Yeah, thank you guys. Just all through the years and everything. I mean, I love you guys. You've helped me so much with every asset of our business here in Connecticut. And anytime I've ever needed assistance with any topic or issue, onboarding new team members and everything, or through the vault, obviously, Joe, and just through learning through you, Mike, it's been amazing. So I can't thank you enough.
Dude.
Our pleasure, Jim.
Appreciate it, man.
You're
Thank
one
you.
of the good guys, man.
Yes. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Please go stream Jim Collins' record and, use it in your sets. And he will certainly appreciate it and send people to.
Are you pressing anything to CD? Because I'd love to get an autographed copy. Is that
nothing? No, nothing put out. I'm thinking about it though. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
Well, put me on the list of.
Same.
I want a copy and I want it autographed.
Same. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And wait, Mike, what's the teaser for next week?
So
it's a potpourri, right?
We have a potpourri of topics, a few different ones that I've put together. We are pre-recording again next week because this time Joe is traveling. So
that's right.
Yeah, tune in for a number of different short topics that we'll come up with.
The potpourri episode.
Potpourri.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.